Hello and welcome to Pock and Rob. This video is one of my occasional revisited videos where I go back and I re-rank something I've done before. Generally speaking, I have done decade videos quite early on in the life of this channel where I run through my top 15 albums from each decade, and I have revisited the 80s, 90s and the 70s. I'm now going to revisit and do my top 50 of the 2000s decade. Before I go in, I would remind you to subscribe if you've not already done so, to click the thumbs up to like it, the bell for notifications of future content, and perhaps share the video with someone who might like it and grow our subscriber count. We're currently over 200, but my next target is 250 when I'm going to do another live stream. So please do share the channel and help grow our subscriber count. So kick off with number 50 and just sneaking in under the wire, and I've been toying with what comes in at number 50. It really was like about 5 potential albums, but I've gone with Dive In by Darius. Darius, as you might know, originally appeared on Pop Stars The Rivals. He didn't get through to the final. He then appeared on Pop Idol, the first series, and came third. But his debut album is some really solid, strong songwriting like Rushes and Colourblind and The Girl in the Moon. And it's a bit of a forgotten gem. Darius is Dive In, my number 50. Number 49, an album that wouldn't have been in here a few weeks ago, but I've got a feeling might climb higher. Paramore, Riot. So my son is a big Paramore fan. He states that this is their best album. I'm kind of inclined to agree. They weren't exactly my introduction with this album. That was last year's This Is Why, because I was listening to new stuff. But I have gone back and started to listen to a bit more. So this has got, for a pessimist, I'm Pretty Optimistic, which is my son's favourite song. I really like That's What You Get. And of course it contains Misery Business, which is their best known and most popular song, which when they were touring with Taylor Swift on the Eras tour, she kind of insisted that they did. Riot, my number 49. And number 48 is an artist that I owned quite a lot of their stuff, and then I fell out of interest with them, and I've ended up getting it back again from charity shops. Escapology by Robbie Williams. This, for me, is probably his finest original album. And it's got Feel on it, which is an absolutely terrific song. The demo version, apparently, because they couldn't improve on the demo. Come Undone, Nan's Song, Me and My Monkey, Hot Fudge, and Something Beautiful. And it's a really solid record that I used to own, got rid of, and rebought from a charity shop for 10p or something. 10p well spent, actually. Escapology, my number 48. At 47 is an artist and an album that I pretty much guarantee you've never heard of. Ross King, All the Decorations 2. So this is a singer-songwriter album, but he's a Christian, and he's more of a worship songwriter. This has got a lot of religious themes in it, so the actual title track, if there is one of the album, which is Clear the Stage, is all about clearing out all of the decorations, hence the title of the album, and the sound equipment, and just getting back to a simple worship style. I've heard somebody cover that, and it's a great song. But so is Venice is Sinking and Safe Distance. There's some really good songs on here that I don't listen to this album often enough, but when I do, I'm reminded how much I like Ross King, and I own quite a lot of his albums thanks to the track Clear the Stage being on a sampler that I once picked up. But you've never heard of it, and I'm sure of it. Ross King, All the Decorations 2, at number 47. At number 46 is the newest addition to my collection, because I only got this a few days ago. Taylor's version of Fearless. Now, yes, Taylor's version came out in 2021, but it's a 2008 album. Love Story absolutely stands out on this record. One of her very best ever songs. I like Hey Stephen. And the more I listen to Taylor Swift, the more I admire what she does. And so I've placed this relatively high for an album that I don't know hugely well, because I know I am going to like it a lot more the more I listen to it. And I like it enough as it is. Number 46, Fearless. And number 45 is a bluegrass album. And it's Alison Krauss and Union Station with New Favourite. This contains Lucky One, The Boy That Wouldn't Hoe Corn, and New Favourite, the title track. I found Alison Krauss as a result of the Oh Brother Where Art Thou film and soundtrack. And I'm glad I did. I can listen to that woman sing the songbook. But there is a second vocalist in the band, which is Dan Tominski. And he was the voice of George Clooney in the aforementioned film. It's a really enjoyable bluegrass album of a genre that I never thought I'd really like very much, and yet here I am including it at number 45. And number 44, the last time that they were probably relevant in terms of both chart success and what they were producing, it's U2 and How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. Vertigo is the most famous track off here, but they had a second number one single from this album, making it probably their most commercially successful release in terms of singles. And it's just gone through a 20th anniversary reissue, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. Number 43, You Knew He Was Coming, it's Paul McCartney, and this is Memory Almost Full from 2007. For me, this is actually a very flawed album. I don't think it hangs together in the way that his very best stuff is. But there's some great tracks on here. Dance Tonight is a lovely, lovely little pop song. I love Ever Present Past, Only Mama Knows, Mr. Bellamy, which is absolutely fantastic. And then there's a stitched together suite at the end of Vintage Clothes, That Was Me, Feet in the Clouds, and his funeral song, effectively, his own eulogy of The End of the End. It's let down by crud like Nod Your Head and Gratitude, but Memory Almost Full, this would be higher but for those two songs and the absolute awful brick wall production of David Kahn. It is exhausting to listen to. I have a needle drop version that I've burnt onto a CD. It's better. Even Gratitude is better. Memory Almost Full, number 43. And number 42, an album that, again, I think is, a lot of it's forgettable, but what it isn't forgettable is what gets it on the list. Origin of Symmetry by Muse from 2001. Newborn alone is absolutely phenomenal, but I like Bliss and Plug-in Baby and Hyper Music and Citizen Erased and Feeling Good, and it's one of those albums that I think is a little bit less than the sum of its parts. But I love Muse. This is my least favourite Muse album of the 2000s. Spoiler, there's more to come. And lastly, in this little batch of 10, at number 41, an album that has only recently made it into this top 50 because I hadn't listened to it much, Accelerate by R.E.M. I'm listening to a fair bit of R.E.M. at the moment because I'm prepping for an R.E.M. album ranking video. But in the meantime, I put this on a week or so ago, and I've always liked Living Well Is the Best Revenge, but I'd forgotten how much I liked Hollow Man and Accelerate and Man-Sized Wreath and Supernatural Super Serious and Mr. Richards. And this could climb higher. It's ripe for reinterpretation. That's not the first time I'm going to say this about R.E.M. on this video, but Accelerate, as it stands at the moment, number 41. Into the next batch of 10, 40 down to 31. And at number 40, Iron Maiden's Brave New World. This album would benefit from being 2 or 3 hour songs shorter, but when you've got Wicker Man, Dream of Mirrors, Ghost of the Navigator, Blood Brothers, Out of the Silent Planet, and the title track Brave New World, you've got the bones of a almost 80s quality Maiden album. Almost. I think Brave New World is a little bit overhyped in the Maiden community, given the fact that it was the return of Bruce and Adrian, but it is still, it warrants its place at number 40. At number 39, I'm pretty sure you probably not actually listened to this album, but I really like it. Generally speaking, I don't include live albums, and I don't include compilation type albums on my lists. This is a kind of a bit of a both. Offerings 2 by Third Day. This is a sequel as well. So this is a mix of covers. So they've got a great cover version of Rich Mullins' Creed on here, and their version of God of Wonders, which is one of my all-time favourite worship songs. There's then also some live tracks like Show Me Your Glory from Come Together and Nothing Compares, also from the same album. And then there's some original stuff on here, like Sing a Song, You Are So Good to Me, and it's an album that I enjoy every time I listen to it. Number 39, Offerings 2 by Third Day. At 38 and 37, I'm going to deal with them together because, well, it's the two Take That albums from 2000s. So, slightly lower on the list, Beautiful World, despite the fact it contains Patience and Shine and Wooden Boat. Slightly higher on the list is The Circus, the one that they brought out afterwards, because that's got The Garden, The Greatest Day, Hello, Said It All, The Circus, How Did It Come to This, and Up All Night. I think this is a slightly stronger album than Beautiful World. This is when they were a four-piece, so they are very much of a similarity piece. They're both really fine albums. And there's a Christmas card between this one being slightly inferior to this one. 38 and 37. At number 36, it's the second sequel that I've included on this list. It's a sequel to an album that came out in 1975 and was autobiographical. It's Elton John's The Captain and the Kid. So Elton and Bernie basically created the sequel to Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. This takes up after effectively the writing and the success of Your Song. It starts off with them visiting America with Welcome to the US, postcards from Richard Nixon. We've got Just Like Noah's Ark and Tinderbox. And again, it follows all the way through to The Captain and the Kid, the title track, which reinterpolates Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy music. I understand that this may well have been written in exactly the same way that Captain Fantastic was, which was in order of the way that you listen to it. Here are the lyrics, put the music to it, here are the lyrics, put the music to it, and it stayed in that order. Which it was a winning formula for Captain Fantastic. Why not repeat it for this excellent sequel from 2008? Number 35 is the second appearance of this band on the list, Third Day with Wire. So this holds a special place in my heart because I saw Third Day live on this very tour in Canada. And it actually shone as an album live. They produced a live version of it called Live Wire, which I no longer own because if you watch my videos, you know how I genuinely feel about live albums. But Till the Day I Die, Come On Back to Me, right at the heart of the record about domestic abuse is It's a Shame. I Believe, Rockstar, and the title track Wire. It's a really good southern rock album that just happened to be done by Christians. Third Day's Wire at number 35. At number 34, I've seen this band live too, but only last year. Room on the Third Floor by McFly. This, astonishingly, is a 20-year-old album. So, yes, this contains their first hit single, their first number one, Five Colours in Her Hair, Set It Off Tom. But it also has a better number one single in, obviously, Room on the Third Floor and Broccoli. And at this point, Tom Fletcher was already a hit songwriter. He'd been writing stuff for Busted, who for a brief moment he was a member of, until they decided they were going to relaunch them as a three-piece. But then they built McFly around the idea of Tom Fletcher's songwriting. And then we got Danny Jones into the bargain as well. Also another great songwriter. There's McFly albums I like a lot more, but this is a really fun album at number 34. At number 33, it's Elton John again for what I think is the best thing that he did in the 2000s, and arguably the best thing he did since 1975 with Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy, and it's Songs from the West Coast. This was apparently the album where John and Topin broke the way that they wrote their songs, because you may remember in the 90s there was a tribute album called Two Rooms. They were never in the same room when they wrote together. This time they were. And they produced something that I think is of the quality of the 70s golden period. So, opens with The Emperor's New Clothes, which burrows into my head and won't go away. Dark Diamond, which features Stevie Wonder's harmonica. American Triangle. One of the most affecting songs of the 2000s for me. It's about the murder of a young gay lad in Wyoming. And I think it's beautifully affecting. But I Want Love was a hit single from it. This Train Don't Stop There Anymore is absolutely phenomenal. It's a terrific album, Songs from the West Coast. And if I'm honest, I don't think Elton John has done anything approaching that quality, not even a single song approaching the quality of that album since the release of Songs from the West Coast. It is my number 33. And number 32, I've already shown you the sequel, so it's time to look at the original, Offerings by Third Day. Their third entry in just this set of 10, and it won't be the last. I really admire Third Day. I love the southern rock fused with Christian gospel. This album, again, it's the same formula as the Offerings 2 that I mentioned. The originals on here are things like King of Glory and the Thousand Hills. The live tracks of their own stuff, it includes Love Song, and it's a better version than the studio one, because I think Mac Powell's vocals have really improved by the time of this album than compared to the original. Got Thief on here and Consuming Fire. And then there's also a cover, of course there's one of Agnus Dei by Michael W. Smith and Saved by Bob Dylan, which is better than Bob's version. It's really, really kicks on Third Day's version. And finally, in this batch, at number 31, for the second time in the space of a month that she's appeared on one of these videos, it's Suzanne Vega with Songs in Red and Grey. The album that she recorded, wrote and recorded after the breakup of her marriage to Mitchell Froome, who produced the previous two albums. And the reason that she's appeared again is because she was number 20 on my top 23 album runs, and this was the concluding part of that. Penitent is absolutely fantastic. I'll Never Be Your Maggie May is a gorgeous song. It's what hooked me into the album, and it's a really, really solid record. Songs in Red and Grey at number 31. Next batch of 10 as we enter the top 30. At number 30, Holy God by Brian Dirksen. Again, it's a worship album. Brian Dirksen is unquestionably one of my favourite worship songwriters of all time. And he follows a similar formula he did for his other albums on Integrity, where he includes brand new stuff, at least one hymn, and a few reimaginings of stuff that he wrote when he was with Vineyard. But this contains Our Father in Heaven, which is one of my favourite versions of the Lord's Prayer. And it concludes with Your Love Will Find Me, which I think is one of the finest lyrical written worship songs out there. And then there's the title track, Holy God, which is just a very, very simple cascading 4-chord melody, but it's all about the rhythm in that song, particularly the explosion of drums that takes place and then leads into the powerful chorus. It's a really, really good worship album, Holy God. It's my number 30. At 29, I have placed what I think is this band's best record of the noughts. It's All That You Can't Leave Behind by U2. U2 screwed the pooch in the 90s after the triumph that was Ashton Baby, with the awfulness that is Europa and the terribleness that is pop. They kind of got back to what they were good at with this album. Some people say that they were playing it safe, but I really don't mind when I get to listen to Beautiful Day and Stuck in a Moment You Can't Get Out Of and Elevation and Grace. And is it too long? Possibly. It falls foul of the We Are in the CD Age, but it's a really good album. It's probably in my top 3 U2 albums. We can work out what the other two are. But All That You Can't Leave Behind at number 29. At 28, this artist, there's always something good on every one of their albums, even the albums that aren't great. This is a great album, however. It's Sweet Warrior from Richard Thompson. This came out, I think, in 2007. It has Needle and Thread and Bad Monkey, Poppy Red, Dad's Gonna Kill Me, Mr. Stupid, which is great fun, and Too Late to Come Fishing, which I think is one of his great You Missed Out Saki songs. Number 27, the third album from this band this decade. In fact, it's their third album, Perfect Symmetry by Keane. So the first half of this album has Spiraling, The Lovers Are Losing, Better Than This, You Haven't Told Me Anything, and Perfect Symmetry, which are all top drawer stuff. The second half isn't quite as good and a little bit more forgettable, but I really do like Playing Along, otherwise known as Turn Up the Volume. I saw Keane live this year. They did, I think, just Perfect Symmetry from this album. But no, they did Spiraling as well. But I'd like to hear more of this record. My son sang Perfect Symmetry as his GCSE music performance piece. He got an 8, so he must have done a pretty good job on it, because it's also a pretty good song and quite tricky to sing. He did a great job, let's be honest. Perfect Symmetry by Keane at number 27. At number 26, this album, it's a mix of originals and covers, but I think it's the best of the series. American 3, Solitary Man by Johnny Cash. So he's got Tom Petty covered on here with I Won't Back Down. U2's One, absolutely brilliant. The Mercy Seat. Gosh, now that's right in the middle of this record, and it's a difficult song to listen to. It's Nick Cave, and it's phenomenally good. American 3, Solitary Man, is my number 26. This used to be number 14 in the list. It's along with the U2 album, they're the biggest casualties of this re-ranking. There's been some serious change in my noughts ranking, it really has. With American 3 now at number 26. At number 25, this is a delightfully fun album. Mika, Life in Cartoon Motion. This will be on here for Grace Kelly. If it didn't also have Lollipop and Love Today and Relax, Billy Brown and Big Girl You Are Beautiful, then it would be much, much lower, because it's actually a really good pop album. Mika's Life in Cartoon Motion, it's my number 25. At 24, it's the first entry on this list by this band, and they've got another couple to come. This is Green Day with Warning. Came out in 2000, Macy's Day Parade, Minority, the title track, Misery. Oh, Misery is an absolutely fantastic song. And it's a little bit ripe for a reinterpretation. This was very, very different sound for Green Day in a lot of these tracks, but it heralds the future and the different sound that they're going to do on their next album. You'll have to wait and see what their next album is, because it is coming up. Warning, it's my number 24. And number 23 is an album that used to be at number 11 in my list. It's Black Holes and Revelations by Muse. Go and watch my original to see what I say about the album. For me now, it's an album of great songs with some filler. Great stuff like Nights of Sidonia and Starlight, and Invincible, which is one of my all-time favourite Muse tracks. But this re-ranking, it's a casualty. It's gone down from 11 to 23. Another casualty that has fallen down the rankings, originally I believe I'd put it at number 10, is my number 22, George Harrison's Brainwashed. I still think that it's an astonishing achievement for a man who was terminally ill and dying. That was finished off by his son and Jeff Lynne. It's probably, for me, his second or third best album after All Things Must Pass. Go and watch the video to see what I think about Brainwashed. And number 21, something that wasn't in this ranking until about a week ago, because I've been on that shtick that I was mentioning of listening to R.E.M., Reveal. I remember this coming out, and after Up had been somewhat unsuccessful and critically mixed, shall we say, this was kind of viewed as a return to form. I've seen reviews since that say that it's not, and actually Up's better, but I like Reveal. The lifting is currently in my head and will not give me any space to put anything else in there, because it's a sequel to Day Sleeper from Up, and actually it's a great opening track. I'll Take the Rain, I think, is lovely. All the Way to Reno, I always liked. And then there's Imitation of Life, which is out of character with the rest of the album, but is a phenomenal single. Reveal, I think I'm going to be listening to this a lot more than I have been in the past. My number 21. Into my top 20 now. And you're going to start to see albums that have appeared on my original ranking a lot more. When I get to those, I am going to very quickly cover them. And at number 20 is one of them, originally ranked at number 8, 21st Century Breakdown by Green Day. It's tumbled down a little bit because there's a little bit of padding in this album, but I still love the songs and the songwriting on it. 21 Guns, if nothing else. But Static Age, it's a really, really fine album. It's my number 20. Number 19 is a soundtrack album. It's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I mentioned it earlier as a reference point of introduction to Alison Krauss because she's on here. Went Down in the River, she sings that absolutely fantastic. And Dan Tominski, who is the voice of George Clooney in the record and singing Man of Constant Sorrow. They are old songs. There's nothing new written for this, but they are reinterpreted and actually saw a bit of a revolution and resurgence in bluegrass music. It's a really strong soundtrack, and I think it was a Grammy winner, which, given the fact that it's effectively a bunch of covers, really, is a phenomenal achievement. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? At number 19. Number 18, an album that I have a limited amount of objectivity about. It's Today by Brian Dirksen. This is the highest placing of one of his albums from this decade. I love Everlasting. I think it's got a lovely version of Refiner's Fire on here, which is one of his old Vineyard songs. Creation Calls, again, an old Vineyard song, but it's really done well. The River and My Redeemer. But the reason I lack objectivity is because one of these songs was done at my wedding. And it's Today, the title track. It is I adore Today. Even now, I think it's one of the best worship songs I've ever heard. No objectivity because it's part of my family history. Number 18. Number 17 is a country album. It's I Hope You Dance by Leanne Womack. I bought it on the strength of the title track, which I heard as a result of listening to the radio when I was heading into work on a night shift once. Phenomenally good song. Absolutely adore I Hope You Dance. Ignore Ronan Keating's substandard version because hers is the one to get. But I also like The Healing Kind and Does My Ring Burn Your Finger? And Lord, I Hope This Day is good. And then the heart of the record, I guess that's why they call it Falling. Really solid country album at number 17. Number 16 is a great pop rock album. Or is it just pop? I don't know. It's The Feeling with 12 Stops and Home. This was actually in contention, quite strongly in contention for my original 15 that I did 4 years ago, and I discounted it, and it's at number 16. That kind of proves why. So this has got Love It When You Call and Sown and Fill My Little World and Helicopter and 12 Stops and Home, or the Blue Piccadilly. It's just great pop music. It really is great, enjoyable pop music. 12 Stops and Home by The Feeling at number 16. At number 15, you won't have heard of this band probably. Reliant K, 2 lefts don't make a right, but 3 do. So this was in my period of the early 2000s. There's a reason there's so many Christian albums appearing here is because that's at the point at which I kind of walked away from listening to most music and was actually trying to listen to more Christian stuff. And Reliant K were one of them. So Mood Rings is on here, and Gibberish is great fun. Pink Tux to the Prom is an absolutely great song. And then there's College Kids. Now, I don't think Reliant K have topped this. It's their pinnacle. And I think it's an absolutely great album. I'll place it at number 15. And number 14. This is the second entry from this band, and I think this is a maturation of their songwriting. Wonderland by McFly. Ultraviolet, I've Got You, Memory Lane, Too Close for Comfort, She Falls Asleep. And then there's All About You, which is my favourite McFly song. I absolutely love All About You. But on this album as well is the Ballad of Paul Kay, which is really, really good songwriting. I prefer All About You for sentimental reasons, but Ballad of Paul Kay, it's really, really good melodicism, enjoyable lyrics, really strong album. I think McFly will go on and do better stuff because I think Power to Play is just But Wonderland, they were good. They are good. My number 14. Number 13, it's Muse and The Resistance, 2009. Often cited as an inferior album to Black Holes, but I disagree, because Uprising I absolutely think is fantastic. Resistance, Undisclosed Desires, United States of Eurasia, even the Exogenesis Symphony, which is a little bit overblown. Muse, never knowingly understated, let's face it. But I Belong to You and MK Ultra are also great. I think this album is ripe for reinterpretation. The Resistance, number 13. Number 12, it is another worship album. This one was in my top 15, so I shall go past it pretty quickly. Arriving by Chris Tomlin. And at number 11, also in my original top 15, and originally at the place of number 6, Foot of the Mountain by a-ha. Possibly a-ha's greatest album. My number 11. Into my top 10, the vast majority of which were in my original 15. They've just moved around a little bit. Climbing up from number 13, Gaze by The Beautiful South. The Beautiful South's best album. I will die on a hill on that. Possibly rose a little bit as a result of listening to Paul Heaton's brand new album. It just reminded me what a great songwriter he is. At number 9, and exactly the same place as it was before, Third Day's Revelations. Their best album for me. Number 8 is an entry that wasn't in there, and it's come as a result of listening to all my vinyl through during this year, and Dance of Death. It's the worst album cover in this entire list. But put that aside for an album that has got Wildest Dreams and Rainmaker that kick it off. And then we have Passchendaele partway through, a huge song. The only songwriting credit to Nico McBrain in New Frontier. Then there's the title track and Face in the Sand and Journeyman, their only acoustic track. And then there's Montsegur, which might be the heaviest thing that they ever put to record. Dance of Death is, I think, criminally underrated by the Iron Maiden fan community. This is easily 80s quality, and I'd actually place it higher than quite a few of the 80s albums, because I think Dance of Death is great. I think it is judged harshly because of the absolute crud that is this cover. My number 8, Iron Maiden's Dance of Death. Number 7, it's gone down from number 4, Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. Still great. Number 6 is an album that definitely wasn't in the top 15 originally. In fact, it would have probably been in my top... In fact, it was my number 1 disappointment of all time. Under the Iron Sea by Keane. Now, what's happened since I did my disappointments 4 years ago? Well, it finally clicked. And I did always like Crystal Ball and Is It Any Wonder, but now I like Broken Toy and Frog Prince and Hamburg Song. And I think the one that probably really made me realise, actually, this is a great album, was when I finally got Leaving So Soon. Number 6, Under the Iron Sea by Keane. Number 5, rising a little bit, is Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. Really solid album. At number 4, and I said they would be reappearing, and you wouldn't have find it hard to guess that Chaos and Creation is, I think it's either my 3rd or 4th best Paul McCartney album. It's stunningly good McCartney of any era, let alone the 2000s. It's currently my number 4. Number 3 is Absolution. This was my number 2, but it's been displaced ever so slightly. And there's been a change between which I think is my favourite and album of the 2000s, because it used to be this. It was Hopes and Fears. I saw Keane live this year. They were phenomenally good, and they played everything on it. They played it out of order, and it actually showed up that some of the songs on the album are not as good as you might have remembered. If they'd have played it in order, I think it might have been a different experience. But it's therefore been supplanted by another band that I saw live this summer who played this album in order, and it was freaking phenomenal. American Idiot by Green Day is now my top album of the 2000s. So that concludes my top 50. I would urge you, if you want to hear what I say about some of those albums that were in the original 15, please do go back all the way back to 4 years ago and watch my 2000s top 15 albums. I'll be back soon with another video. I've got some plans. We're heading into December 2024 at the time of recording this, which means I will be revisiting 2022's ranking list. I'm starting to think that it might be one of the very best years in music as far as my personal tastes are concerned. I will also be doing my 2024 review, which my son will be joining me for as well. But until the next video, I'd remind you to subscribe, like, click the bell, share the video, grow subscribers, leave a comment, and thanks for watching.